First on BBC One 999 with Michael Burke.
Tonight on 999, electrocuted and drowned in a paddling pool.
It probably was the worst scenario you can actually have.
The terrifying dangers of chip pan fires.
No, I only put in hardly any water at all.
And Jaffa the pony's amazing escape. This is London's Central Ambulance Control, the biggest in Europe. More than 50 operators take around 3,000 emergency calls every day. In just 90 seconds, they can dispatch a conventional ambulance, the HEMS helicopter, or paramedic motorcyclists, in some cases, all of them. But when 14-year-old Craig Bowes was involved in a serious accident in his garden, the only thing that could save him was the voice on the end of the telephone. Our story is based on the actual call that came in here to the control centre.
Tell me exactly what's happened.
I'm not sure. He was in the pool and there's a pump in the pool and it's an electric pump.
Right, who is it, a child?
Yeah, 14.
14?
Yeah.
Right, have you switched all the electric off?
Yeah, it's all off.
You switched it all off?
Yeah, well, what's am I supposed to do because he's laying on the floor?
He's out of the pool, is he?
Yeah.
Right, now just listen to me carefully. The ambulance will already have been dispatched, so by talking to me you're not holding it up, OK? Lungs are probably full of water, he's not breathing and he's been electrocuted. So it probably was the worst scenario you can actually have.
I've got a 14-year-old male, Dave, query electrocution here.
What code's that on?
1959.
There's someone who's actually on the HEMS desk and they actually look at every call that comes in and they decide whether they think a paramedic or the HEMS should go.
Number 301, thank you. Further emergency call.
SC12, when you're ready, please, over.
301, send over.
Got 14 for this 4-year-old boy.
Query electrocution.
Query drowning. Query suspended.
Yeah, roger that.
When someone's suspended, it means that their heart stops and they're not breathing by themselves. It was a bit of a nightmare, really, when we got it. It's bad enough getting a drowning and an electrocution all in one go, but for the patient to be query suspended as well.
We're also going to dispatch HEMS, all right?
HEMS is the emergency helicopter service, which is used quite often in London because they can get, obviously, through quicker than an ambulance can. Right, have you switched all the electric off?
Yeah, it's all off.
You switched it all off?
Yeah, well, what's am I supposed to do because he's laying on the floor?
He's out of the pool, is he?
Yeah.
Right, is he conscious or unconscious?
Is he conscious?
Right. A lot of people don't understand conscious. What I really should have said was, is he awake and able to talk to you? Because people can relate to that, rather than conscious and unconscious.
Southeast 12 call when you're ready, Anna.
47, receive it.
It's given us a 14-year-old male. Query electrocution, query suspended.
Roger, Branding Crescent, Southeast 12, electrocution and shock in pool.
My first, worry was that they wouldn't actually be able to get him breathing again. I need you to go out and check that the child is breathing and come back and tell me if he is and whether he's conscious or unconscious, OK?
OK. I don't think he's breathing.
You don't? I could actually see this paddling pool right at the end of the garden and all these people were relaying messages. I was telling him and he was shouting up to the end of the garden to somebody else. And I could just see it all, the patio doors, the paddling pool at the end of the garden and all the chaos that was going on. I could hear people shouting and screaming. Can you bring him in nearer to the phone and I'll tell you what to do? Can you bring him in?
Okay.
Bring him in?
He's in there down the back of the garden.
Right, well, it's easy. Can you get him into the phone and then I can tell you what to do? Can you carry him in?
I can tell him, you tell him what to do.
Right, OK, you need to get him on his back.
Get him on his back.
OK, now you need to tip his head back as if he's like in the sniffing position and pinch his nose.
On his back, he's going purple. On his back! Tip his head back.
Right, pinch his nose.
Pinch his nose.
And then breathe, blow into his mouth.
Blow into his mouth, as if you're blowing up a balloon. Just do it!
When he's blowing into his mouth, is his chest rising?
Is his chest rising when you blow? He's gargling.
Turn him onto his side.
Turn him onto his side and let him spit it out. So I've got to do it again?
Yeah, no, not if he's breathing. If he's breathing.
Is he breathing?
I wasn't reassured that he was breathing because sometimes people do gurgle when they're trying to resuscitate them and they've got any fluid in their throat at all, and it does make a gurgling noise. But I'd quite like to have been there, and because it's much easier to do it yourself than it is to actually try and tell somebody, and you always wonder whether they're actually doing it exactly as you're telling them to do it.
Just up in here, siren.
Are they there?
Oi, Andrew, they're coming. He said it's the one who's laying down saying it's hurting.
What's hurting?
I don't know. What's hurting him? What's hurting him?
But your ears are just peeled just listening for that siren, and once you hear it, it's the most wonderful sound in the world.
Well, sometimes we are confronted by screaming relatives, shouting and screaming, why did we take so long? When people are on scene and they're waiting for an ambulance, the time seems to stretch.
Come down, let's hurry into the back garden.
All right, my name's Tony. What's happened?
OK, son, are there parents around?
Then just over the road.
Can you go and get them for me now, please, son? We've got to take them to the hospital.
You've got to come.
What's the matter?
Come on, you've got to come.
And I went out and I saw the police and the ambulance, and then I knew there was something wrong. I didn't really know what it was. The thoughts went through my head of just sheer panic.
He's alive.
What do you mean he's alive? I was gobsmacked. I didn't know. I said, what? What do you mean he's alive? Because at that point, I did not know what had happened.
Right, all right. Good. You only fit well, young man.
It was my worst nightmare. I don't think I could ever imagine anyone else going through that.
That's it. All right, Mum. All right, Mum. He's going to be fine.
It's all right, darling.
He's going to be fine. He's going to be fine.
Don't worry about it. Why didn't you watch him? What happened? Tell me what happened.
He didn't mean it.
What have you done to him?
Sorry.
Did you say when he was on there? He told you.
Why didn't you look? You're so stupid. I mean, every time. Why didn't you just look out for him?
It's just scary when you think what could have happened. Someone could have died in the back garden. Like in the back, my house, in the back garden of my house.
We were in the garden, hot, bored. It was halfway through our summer holidays, and we were fed up, wish we were back at school.
Get me wet one more time, I'm going to come in there.
And we said, yeah, let's clean out the paddling pool so we can just sit in it and cool down, basically. And he said, yeah, it's a good idea. The pool was full up and we were all just sitting in it, cooling down. Chris brought out an electric pond pump. And he said, yeah, it's to squirt the water up, just give it some more atmosphere, basically. And basically, I got in it first, yeah, thinking it was all right, but then Chris said, yeah, wait there, I'm going to unplug it and go get an extension lead. And I just had a really awkward, disturbing feeling that something was going to happen.
Come on!
When I plugged it in the second time, it sparked.
What? What's wrong? What's wrong?
I couldn't move, it was like holding me there.
Hurry up! Come on, hurry up!
I didn't know that Craig was like dying. I just thought he was feeling the same thing as me, but then as I turned around to him, and he weren't like, he was just silent.
Give us a hand! Hands up, Andy!
As soon as the electric went off, he just went all relaxed and limp, and he just stopped screaming. He just slid under the water. His back just rubbed against the edge, and he went completely under, and he was floating. Me and Andrew dragged him out, and he was blue, his lips were blue, his face was completely white.
Knocky, think!
And I checked for his pulse, and he didn't have a pulse, and then I was panicking.
What should we do now? What should we do?
And at this time, Chris was on the phone to the operator, and she was telling us what to do.
Tip his head back! On his back!
But we all thought he was dead. He looked dead.
Blow twice into his mouth, as if you're blowing up a balloon.
You just do it!
I was doing chest compressions and I was just thinking, I hope he's going to survive. I just wanted him to live. I was just hoping it would pull through and live.
When Craig came around, I felt very relieved because I knew he was going to be all right. I knew he was alive because dead people don't groan. It felt so good, just one, to save his life, two, he was my best friend.
Just keep an eye on his breathing. Do you want me to stay on the phone with you, or do you want to go?
She just like saved my friend's life because she was keeping me calm. She was telling me exactly what to do, and it like helped a lot.
Mum, it's all right. I'm with you, darling.
Long way up. All right, mate. 1, 2, 3.
My first thought was, why didn't you come and get me? But if they had done, he probably wouldn't have been here because it was the timing that was so important, because the doctor said that because they reacted so quickly, that's why he's here today.
Phil, can you cancel him for us? Selling patients package ready to go. We're going to Lewisham.
Brilliant. GCS of 15, hemodynamically stable. Mike Sierra, not required, ever.
Ready?
And then I just remember seeing coloured lights and hearing a noise. And I just remember waking up into the ambulance and then screaming and shouting, telling my mum I was sorry.
Oh, it was great. It was good to turn up and have the lad conscious, really. It was great for him to be conscious, let alone talking.
I didn't really put anybody at the other end of the line that Chris had spoken to until I read the transcript of the tape. And I think Paula done wonderful to do what she done. Well, you won't do it again, will you?
No, not in a hurry.
Craig was discharged from hospital 3 days after the accident.
I've never met anybody before as a 999 operator. It'd be really nice to meet them. I'd really like to. Hello, you must be Craig's mum.
Yeah.
I'm Paula.
Hello,
999
Paula.
operator.
Oh,
How do you do?
Oh, dear.
Hello.
Hello, Paula.
How do you do?
Oh, it's so nice to see you. Oh, it's so nice.
That's all right, it's nice to see you.
Oh, caught me all emotional now. Oh.
I didn't really think it would be emotional, but it was more emotional than I thought it would be, and it was really, really nice.
It was an emotional reunion for Craig too, meeting the woman who saved his life.
Hello, ambulance service, can I help you?
But with more than 3,000 calls coming in every day, it's business as usual at London Ambulance Control.
You're actually suffering from.
Got an adult male, there's a known cardiac with abdo pain.
In 1997, 46 people died and 4,500 people were injured by chip pan